Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to winter. I want to welcome you. I'm Mayor Doug Anderson, and I want to welcome you to our 2022 Lakeville State of the City. I and City Administrator Justin Miller will share some information this morning as to our city and the state of our city. Justin's going to provide basically a 2021 year in review. And then after he completes that, I'll step back up and talk a little bit about who we are, talk about our census, and then also talk about a little bit about where we're headed. Last year, I opened the State of the City with a comment, something like, "This has been the year like no other." And we all know what we've been through the last couple years. Well, this year, I'd love to open up this conversation this morning with a statement, something like, "Welcome back to normal." But you know what? We're not quite there. We've come a long way through the pandemic and all the associated impacts that we've had over the last couple years. But we're not fully back yet, are we? We're not really sure when we're going to be back to normal, whatever that means. And we might all have our own opinion about what it means. But we've learned a lot through the past couple years, some good, some bad, some really helpful, and some things that we don't ever want to do again. Let me say it this way. We are well back into the transition, and for that, I think we are all grateful. For our city as last year, we haven't missed a beat in terms of road projects, development, activities, and everything in between. This is quite extraordinary and is a testament to our city council, our city staff, and our entire community. Thank you to everyone as we continue one day at a time to fulfill our vision for our city of Lakeville. Before I turn it over to Justin, I just want to pause and recognize a few folks that are here in the audience with us. From City Council, we have Luke Hellier and John Bermel and Joshua Lee. From the legislature, I think Senator Zach Duckworth is here. He's way in the back. He thought this was church this morning. No, I'm just kidding, Zach. From the county, Commissioner Mary Liz Holberg is here, and our county attorney, Kathy Keena, is here. From the school, from District 196, Mary Krieger is here. She's in the back. And from the chamber, we have the Honorable President Krista Jeck is in our presence this morning. You're welcome. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin to do a quick review of 2021.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for being here. It really does mean a lot to have so many people who are dedicated and thoughtful of the community to be here today. So we really can't tell the story of Lakeville without talking about the continued rapid growth that we continue to see. 2020 was a record year, and whenever I say that, I always feel like I have to emphasize in a pandemic. Think back to the beginning of 2020, we didn't know what was going on. We were making contingency plans for a 10% decrease in taxation. We didn't know what was going on, yet we broke all sorts of records in terms of building permit valuation. And 2021 would have been a record if it weren't for 2020. The pace will continue and is continuing into 2022, and like Mayor Anderson said, he's going to address some of those projects that are moving forward. And that growth is spread all across the city and across all sectors, from medical and retail, national and local, new construction and expansions, build-to-suit and speculative projects. Developers and businesses clearly see that Lakeville is a great place to invest and to grow their business. And if you drive around town, you might see a couple homes that are being built. For at least the 7th straight year, more single-family homes have been built in Lakeville than in any other city in the state. But we've also seen investment in townhomes, senior living, and apartments, all which help us meet our envisioned Lakeville community value of a home for all ages and stages of life. All of this development, along with strong budgeting and prudent stewardship and management, has led to an upgrade in the city's bond rating to AAA. That's the highest possible rating and that makes us one of only 230 cities across the country and only 13 in Minnesota to achieve that rating. And while no one likes to pay taxes, Dakota County has the lowest tax rate amongst any metropolitan county, and the city has the lowest tax rate in Dakota County. So you put that all together, and we're not doing too shabby. And then finally, we received almost $5.5 million in COVID relief funds from the federal government, and we are wisely using that on one-time expenditures such as public safety equipment, utility infrastructure, and other uses that will benefit the entire community. Last November, the community came together and overwhelmingly approved a $38 million park bond referendum, the first time in over 20 years. For this, we are extremely grateful, and we have already started to deliver on some of the projects that were identified in the referendum. Others are in the design stage, and we're going to be delivering those over the next 4 years. Specifically, those projects include improvements to the Arts Center, replacing all of the ID signs at our parks, replacing basketball courts throughout the community, a new outdoor covered ice sheet at Hasse Arena. Specifically, I'd like to thank the Lakeville Hockey Association and the Heritage Figure Skating Club for pledging $1.5 million toward this project and helping jumpstart its construction. We're going to connect a lot of the trail gaps in the community. Ritter Farm Park is a jewel that not a lot of people know about. We're going to repair the cabin and make site improvements out of that park. Avonlea Community Park will be a brand new multi-purpose athletic field complex along Cedar. And then we're going to do phase 2 of East Community Park on the east side of town. I briefly mentioned Antlers Park. Antlers is one of the most high-profile projects of this referendum, and the staff, the Parks, Recreation, Natural Resources Committee, and the City Council have been diligently working on making this a centerpiece in our park system. You might see construction later this year, definitely into '23. Now, I've been told there's a saying about Minnesota that there's only 2 seasons. Maybe winter is one. I guess winter is one of them, looking at today. But we're definitely going to live up to the road construction part this year. With projects on 210th Street, Ipava, 179th, and a major gas line improvement, you will see lots of infrastructure improvements across the city this year. We're also investing in technology that's going to allow our utility customers to receive near real-time monitoring of their water bills in an effort to provide even more options to our customers and promote conservation. And unfortunately, emerald ash borer has taken root in Lakeville, but we are taking a very proactive approach in the treatment, removal, and replacement efforts across the city. Our public safety agencies, like across the country, have seen their share of challenges over the past few years, and we are extremely proud of their work. The City Council recently received a comprehensive report of the current and future staffing levels of the fire department, and also approved a well-deserved 20% increase in their pension funding. The police department has been a leader in mental health efforts, not only for the public, but for their own staff as well. And soon, an embedded social worker will be working within the department due to a partnership with Dakota County. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation, our police reserves, community service officers, and our chaplains, who assist both the police and the fire departments on a daily basis. We opened our 4th liquor store this year, and if you haven't been there yet, I think you're the only one. We're setting sales records, it seems like, on a monthly basis, and we are clearly the #1 municipal liquor store operation in the state of Minnesota. And that leads to record fundraising efforts by our customers, and it also results in us putting the profits of over $1 million a year back into the community. And lastly, we are not immune to the great retirement, great resignation phenomenon that is going on across the country. In the coming months, 71 years of service are going to be walking out the door with just these 3 senior leaders that you see on the screen. That doesn't even include people like Penny Brevig, who spent 22 years in our planning department, Roberta McDonald, who spent 20 years in our construction management department, and the list could go on and on over the past couple of years. We are certainly going to miss all of them, but we wish them well and their well-deserved retirements. With that, I will turn the podium back over to Mayor Anderson, and he'll let you know what's up for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, very much. It's quite a glimpse, isn't it, in terms of what's been happening this past year. I wanted to do something just a little different this year, and I wanted us to step back and think about Envision Lakeville and our vision statement for our city. And I think it's really important to ground ourselves every time we have the opportunity to look back and to look forward and think about what that means, what values undergird that, what have been the strategies over time in terms of how we've gotten to where we are. So let me just read this quickly. We envision a thriving, multi-generational community where families, friends, and neighbors connect, live, learn, work, and play. Great schools, a diverse local economy, exceptional parks, trails, and recreational opportunities, vibrant social and cultural institutions, safe neighborhoods, and responsive and cost-effective public services together create a place we are proud to call home. I think all of us, for sure, that have been here for quite a while, and I hope that even if you're new to our community, that you would resonate with this vision that we have. And what I'd like to do is just wander through kind of a word picture or just take a little time to talk about each phrase in our vision statement and where we stand. And let's put this in context. This vision statement was put together by a community task force in 2013, so roughly 10 years ago, 9 years ago. When did the iPad come out? How many of you have an iPad or a whatever device? Okay. When did the iPad come out? The first iPad was in our hands in 2010. So roughly a couple years before this vision statement was put together. Think of the change, folks. Think of the change that's happened in our technology over that period of time. That's basically ubiquitous for us, right? Just along with the iPhone, which came out in about 2007, and other devices. It's changed our culture, and it's been a huge impact. Well, our city has experienced that same level of change over the last 10 years. When this vision statement was put together, it was aspirational. And that's a really important thing to remember. It was aspirational. And so I'd just like to walk through this quickly and just talk about each phrase. Great schools. District 196, 194, 192. We have phenomenal schools. Our private schools, All Saints and others. We have phenomenal schools in our community. They've had challenges, folks, and we know that. And we need to stand behind them. Each one of us needs to stand there for our schools because that's our future. Our kids are our future generation. I also want to add, and kudos to the Chamber and District 194. The Lakeville Works program has been such a phenomenal success in our community. And it is helping our students understand that there are multiple pathways. There are various pathways to successful careers. My nephew is in the trades, and he has a phenomenal career in machining, and there are great opportunities. And I'm grateful that we as a community have come around our kids and helped them understand there are multiple and various pathways. A diverse local economy. Think about what Air Lake looked like 10 years ago for those of us that have been around that long. There was a lot of vacant land. Amazon wasn't there. QA1 was in a much, much smaller building, if they were even there at that time, 10 years ago. There's a lot of change that has happened in the industrial park and in our community. Healthcare growth. Lots of new announcements around healthcare. Other services, many new restaurants across our city, many working from home. We have eight business pods across our community, across our city, and we're fortunate that one of them is historic downtown. There are a lot of suburban communities that are trying to build downtowns. It's not very successful, and it takes a lot of money. And we are so fortunate to have our historic downtown, which, again, 10 years ago, this vision statement was aspirational for our downtown. And today, look at where we are. And we're continuing to move forward. All of this business, diverse economic development also helps, and Justin mentioned our tax rate. It just helps us with a diverse tax base. Parks, exceptional parks, trails, and recreational opportunities. The last 2 years have really helped us understand the value of our green space and our parks. I can say it, and I think all of you would, we do have exceptional parks. And I want to add my thank you to our entire community for stepping up and voting for the park referendum. Justin already reviewed what were the components of that. But we're fortunate, and we will do those projects as efficiently and effectively as we can over the next few years, probably 3 or 4 years, and bring those parks into our system to leave that legacy for future generations. And I'm very excited that we've had the opportunity to support our parks because it supports our community, whether it's our hockey programs or mountain biking or anything in between. It's good for us to have the green space and the parks that we have. Vibrant social and cultural institutions, from faith communities to civic clubs, to other nonprofits in our community. We are very fortunate to have groups that really support and step up in our community, whether it's Rotary, Lions, VFW, even our Historical Society, which maintains the legacy for us. And if you haven't been to the Historical Society as community members, it's in the Heritage Center. I'd invite you to find a time to go take a look at our history. It's a phenomenal history of a community that has grown over the years. And please come check that out. Safe neighborhoods. Justin already referred to our police and fire services, all of our first responders, including ambulance, as well as our chaplaincy program, all provide great support for us 24/7 to keep us safe. And periodically there are third-party surveys, et cetera, that are done that name us one of the safest cities across the state. And we're fortunate to have the type of support and teams that we have that help us stay safe. And lastly, responsive and cost-effective public services. Justin already mentioned the tax rate and where we stand with that. And we are very committed as a city council to continue to be to continue to be good financial stewards for the dollars that you folks in our community entrust with us. So an aspirational vision 10 years ago, we're pretty well along the way, aren't we, in terms of achieving that vision. And as we look toward the future, the Envision Lakeville strategic plan, the visioning plan, has been updated about every 5 years. We would be due to have an update next year in 2023. I'm not making predictions here because the City Council hasn't yet decided this, but I'm guessing that there'll be a process soon, maybe in 2023 or shortly thereafter, to update this plan. And I would encourage the community and the council to take a look at this vision statement and ensure that it continues to be aspirational. For us as a community, I think it could be enhanced with some diversity language. And I think there is it's a new time, it's a good time to step forward and look to 10, 15, 20 years from now and what that aspirational vision would be for our city. So with that, and I hope that you were able to, in your own way, kind of walk through that word picture, that process with me of thinking about where we've come from. It's a great picture, folks. And last year, as I stood here in the midst of the pandemic, I stated that our city, the state of our city, was strong. And today I stand in front of you and I will say that the state of our city not only remains strong, but we are very strong. And we have a great community, and I'm very excited about where we are at this point. So I've got a few slides now that are related to the census information. And I don't know how many of you have seen some of this information yet or not, but I'm going to walk through some of this. I'll just add a few comments along the way. So the census, remember this is the 2020 census, so it's already 2 years out of date. The population was 69,490. Our population change over the decade prior was 24.2%, almost 25%. There's no question we've been the fastest growing city in the state. Median household income, median age is 36. I don't have those trend lines. I'm guessing that probably hasn't changed very much over the last 10 years. Unemployment rate, 1.9% today. Number of businesses in Lakeville, 1,365. Is anybody surprised by that number? That's a lot of business activity, and that does not include all of the home-based businesses in our city, which with the last couple of years, I'm guessing that's accelerated quite a bit as well. And number of jobs in Lakeville, just under 20,000. In the past few weeks, online, the 1950 census was made available. So if you're a historian and you want to go out and look at old information, I went out and took a look at what the population of the village of Lakeville was in 1950. 600 people. Less than 1% of who we are today. And so that's been, I mean, just another perspective of where we've come from. And one of the other things I want to comment on is I mentioned that this census information is 2 years old. So when we look at our population of 69,492 years ago, we know we've grown since then. We know just because of all the new homes, right? And so the staff here has made some assumptions and taken a look at the information on other cities that are near our population size and kind of recalculated our status in terms of where we stand as far as city size across the state. And we believe we're probably over 72,000 people at this point in time, and that would place us as the 9th largest city in the state of Minnesota. So quite a change from our humble beginnings back in 1950 being a very rural community of 600 people to today being the 9th largest city in the state. This is a little tough to see. I guess it's not so bad when you're looking up there. But the thing I want to focus on is housing units. It just shows that over the last decade we've added 4,515 housing units across our city. Fairly often I get a call or an email from someone concerned about our growth. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. However, I just want to comment that from a housing standpoint, we've been very fortunate over the last few years to add and improve the diversity of our housing. Whether it's what I call detached townhomes, that might be a great move for a baby boomer who wants to downsize, or a new family that wants to move into our community. Might be some multifamily housing. We all know there's some very visible projects going on along the interstate. We've added some diversity to our housing, which I believe is very, very good. I do want to say very clearly that from a planning standpoint, the City Council remains very committed to two values or two objectives with our housing. Number one is that we are a city that continues to plan for predominantly single-family homes. We don't have a big, huge plan to add thousands and thousands and thousands of multi-housing units. We do need housing diversity, however, which is what we're doing, and we're doing that, I believe, in a good, appropriate fashion. But our primary planning objective is to add single-family homes. And second, years ago, way before my time on City Council, city leadership as well as the City Council established a value in our planning process that our multifamily housing would be built out in our community on a scattered site basis. Very, very important. And it really helps us come together, I believe, as a community. And so we remain committed to that value. Another aspect of the census is related to diversity. I think we all would assume that with the growth we've had, we've increased in all kinds of different diversity, whether it's age diversity, certainly cultural diversity, which is what this slide is about, and other types of diversity in our community. This slide shows that our cultural diversity is 21% of our residents are persons of color. That's almost double what we were 10 years ago, a decade ago. Yes, we're changing, and in fact, the fulfillment of our vision is very attractive. So people want to move here for all the reasons why we wanted to move here to the city of Lakeville. That's wonderful that we're growing and we're adding diversity. With diversity, however, comes challenges and opportunities. Challenges with differing traditions, approaches to things, and how we communicate. And many opportunities to learn, grow, build friendships, and broaden our understanding of the world. I'd just like to make a personal comment here as mayor. I've been saddened by how the challenges of diversity overtake our relationship with other people in our community. That said, I'm very proud of our city council, who 2 years ago agreed to host 3 conversations on race. This was not easy, nor was it comfortable. But I think those that stepped into the conversations to learn together benefited well from that time that they spent. We are not done. And an outcome of those conversations was that the City Council established the Cultivate a Sense of Community Task Force, which is meeting right now. This is one of our Envision Lakeville strategies to cultivate a sense of community, which was not clearly supported with action steps in the update from a few years ago. I look forward to the time the City Council receives the work of the task force, which I believe will be this summer, as we look to implement new ways to encourage us to connect with others in our city. So this next slide is related to age and education. Again, it might be a little bit small. I don't have any trend lines here. Certainly, I think from an age standpoint and the fact that I'm a baby boomer, I kind of know this, that a lot of us baby boomers want to stay in Lakeville. And we're looking for ways that we can downsize and that we can continue to live here because we love it. And so I think that from a comparison standpoint, from 10 years ago, we have more folks proportionally that are older living in our community than we did 10 years ago. From an education standpoint, this pie chart is very intriguing. If you just kind of summarize the math, 80% of us in our community have some post-high school education, 80% of us. And within that, 3/4 of those folks have some sort of degree, whether it's a graduate degree, a bachelor's degree, or an associate degree. We are well educated in our community, which is wonderful for our city. So that's the census information, who we are, where we're at. If you're interested in more of that information, I think there's a link on our city website. And certainly you can go out and Google and find more information. And I think there's more information yet to come. I'm not sure that the entire amount of data has been fully released. I want to move on, though, and just talk a little bit about some other aspects of our city and a little bit about where we're headed as a city. This is a slide I used in the State of the Business presentation at the Chamber lunch about a month ago. About partnerships. When I first ran for City Council 10 years ago, I talked about the need and the importance of partnerships. I believed that firmly 10 years ago, and today I believe it even more, because now we've had the real opportunity to understand the strength and the support that partnerships help us in ways of how partnerships help us as a city. And so this is a non-all-inclusive list. The Lakeville Area Chamber of Commerce, Justin also added the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation earlier. Dakota County, we have members of the county here. Metropolitan Council, Metropolitan Airports Commission, we have a lot going on at our airport, our school districts. There's the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation. Lakeville Cares, which leads me to our Lakeville faith communities. We have strong faith communities across our city. I also want to mention our legislators. I know that Senator Duckworth had to leave, but we have 6 legislators that state legislators that really support our efforts. We also have federal legislators. Our Congresswoman Craig has been a great partner for us over the years. And I also want to add our civic groups to this list as well, and I mentioned them earlier. So our partnerships really are important. Strong partnerships strengthen us, and I hope that we never, ever lose the effort we put into maintaining those relationships and working hard at those relationships for the future. It's very important. Economic development and growth. This is a big area for us as a growing city. Justin reviewed 2021. Think about if we were still sitting here reviewing every year, 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, and what we would see in terms of the growth and development from our business changes to our housing. It would be quite a list. We're not going to go back and do that today. But what I want to say is that businesses make choices to invest in our city, and they do that for all kinds of reasons. Some of you are business owners, and you might have been through this in terms of where are you going to locate, why are you going to locate there, and what does that mean for your business, maybe in terms of market availability or employee availability. There are all kinds of decisions that go into how businesses, there are all kinds of factors that go into how businesses make choices about where they locate. We don't cause a business to come here. I, as mayor, don't cause a business to come here. It doesn't work that way. I could make a phone call maybe and say, hey, we'd love to see you here. But they're going to make a choice based on their business decisions. Our city staff and our city council and all of our volunteer committees, including Planning Commission and the Economic Development Commission, work hard to ensure that we have the framework and the planning documents in place so when people come to us and say, hey, you know what, Lakeville's growing like mad, we'd love to locate here, that we can help them navigate that and look at appropriate places for them to possibly build a new building or to rent some space and come into our community. I do want to give a shout out to the Economic Development Commission. This is a group of volunteers from our community, mostly business members of our business community. They meet monthly and they support our city council and staff. They periodically update our economic development strategic plan, and they routinely monitor our success in the context of that plan. I'm really grateful for their work. I have a privilege to serve there just as Krista Jeck, our chamber president. We have the privilege to sit at that table as ex officio members of that group as they review and plan and they advocate for what's best for our city. So thank you very much to the Economic Development Commission. And just talking a little more about planning. Periodically, I do get questions from residents about, boy, we're just growing like mad. You guys need to plan more. You need to have better plans. And it gives me an opportunity to communicate, and sometimes, quite frankly, I actually go knock on their door. And we have a conversation about the type of planning that this city does to ensure that we don't have chaos. To ensure that we stay within the framework that we desire and the values we want to live out to achieve the vision that we went through earlier in this presentation. So in that context, we have an overarching umbrella comprehensive plan for this city that we're actually required by the Metropolitan Council to put together every 10 years. We finished that process a couple years ago, so that plan is in place. Again, you can find it on our website. But there is lots of planning work that goes on to support and undergird that overall umbrella plan, from road planning to utility planning to parks planning to a lot of other plans that fit into that mix in terms of the really complete planning effort that our city goes through to ensure to achieve our vision. So I'm grateful for everyone that's involved in all that planning process. I want to say thanks to the City Council for their tenacity as we worked through a couple years ago the every 10-year comprehensive plan, because it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of work, and most importantly, I should say thanks to the staff. Daryl Morey, I don't know if Daryl's here this morning, and Dave Olson and others that work hard to develop that plan and help us advance that forward in a way that supports our vision for the city. So, with that, just a few specific things that are going on in our city. We have numerous medical providers looking to come into our city to support our residents and businesses. Summit Orthopedics just opened out on the interstate. Alina, just this last week, announced a new multi-service facility near Target. And there is a yet-to-be-named healthcare provider coming into a new building on the corner of Cedar and Dodd. I'm really thrilled that our healthcare systems have come to a point where they're looking at Lakeville and want to be in town to support us as a community. It's just going to create a lot better access to healthcare for our community. In the industrial park, lots has been changing. I mentioned Amazon a little bit earlier. That's a 3/4 of a million square foot, 750,000 square foot building that Amazon put up. Currently, as we sit here, Mr. Olson sitting out here with his team, they are in the process of reviewing over 1 million square feet of new industrial development that is under discussion. How much of that comes to fruition, we don't know. But there is significant interest in the state of Minnesota to locate in the city of Lakeville. And that obviously helps our tax base, but it also helps ensure that we have jobs for those of us that live here and in our surrounding communities. I mentioned the airport briefly earlier. The on-site provider at the airport has been expanding things, and they actually have a plan in place that they're looking at putting in a restaurant at the airport. This would be a whole new activity for us with Air Lake Airport, not only for us as local individuals to be able to go to a restaurant at the airport, but also for people to fly in that are traveling somewhere and have this be a place they could stop and invest their travel dollars into our community. So there's some interesting things going on there, along with the expansion of the airport, including new hangars on the south side of the airport. We talked a little bit about our demographics earlier, and I mentioned that the people, older folks, I shouldn't say it that way because I'm one of them, but us baby boomers are getting older, and there are new senior housing communities coming into our city. There's a senior housing community actually under construction right now up near the corner of Cedar and Dodd, and we have a new community that's trying to get underway near Hosanna. That is a new approach to senior housing. It's a cooperative. So it has a different kind of ownership structure. And we're excited about that because it adds, again, to the diversity of the type of housing we have in our city. And education. The education world continues to be important for us as a community, as a growing community. And United Christian Academy has acquired some land down on the southwest corner of I-35 and County Road 70 to bring a new school into our community. Their plan ultimately would build out to house 1,600 students, 200 preschool students, and 1,400 K through 12th grade students in our community. It would add to private schools in our community along with All Saints, Christian Heritage Academy, and others. And lastly, of course, we have housing developments happening. And most recently, we had a development that came in, a plan that came in for a new development near the new elementary school for District 194 on Highview and 185th Street. And in addition to that, we have a large development that is under works, that's in process for a major development on our eastern border, which is just south of Brandon Farms. and there's a large parcel of land there looking to have 700 to 800 units in that location. And finally, one of the most often questions that Krista Jeck, the chamber president, and I receive is, when are we getting more restaurants? And so it's important to talk about restaurants in our community. And I don't know what the number is we're up to now, but if you include fast food and quick stops like Quick Trip, places you can buy food, I know we're over 90 in the city of Lakeville. And I'm pleased to announce that today, in fact, there's a new restaurant downtown that's opening, The Better Half, and we're excited about this, breakfast, lunch, and dinner options for them. And also, Raising Cane's out by Target, I'm sure will be opening soon. It looks like it's very close. And so for those of you that love chicken, there'll be another opportunity for you in our community. So overall, as I think about economic development and growth, as I mentioned, we have our plans in place. The census showed, we've grown about 25% in the last decade, but we've been very planful in terms of what we're doing, and the city staff is very conscientious to ensure that we stay within those plans. And as Justin said, here we are, a couple of years of the pandemic as kind of an umbrella over all that's been going on, and we've continued to grow and continued to provide great places for people to live, work, and play. So my last slide is legislative initiatives. This is a really important partnership, and I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that are going on right now legislatively, and for myself as mayor and for us as city council, these are relationships. Our relationship with our legislators are very important and ones that we nurture along pretty much on a daily basis during the legislative session. So the first one is the County Road 50 and I-35 interchange. Commissioner Holberg from the county's been an incredible partner with us on this. I think those of us, again, that have been here a long time know how undersized and, quite frankly, dangerous that intersection is and can be. We're hopeful, and we've achieved success last year to get some support in terms of some planning money, and we're hopeful we can continue to move that along the road to gain funding to not only continue to develop the full plans, but to move that project forward sooner than later in terms of redeveloping that entire intersection so it can handle the capacity of today as well as years to come. Rail storage facility, we have for a long time had a concern, safety concerns, environmental concerns, as well as simply just site concerns. Railroad cars aren't necessarily the thing people like looking at, stored rail cars, and we've been working the last 4 years in earnest in terms of looking at ways we can develop a railroad car storage facility for our local short line railroad, which is very important to us, particularly our industrial park. And we'd like to provide an opportunity for them to store cars in an appropriate place and not have to deal with the concerns that I just mentioned. So we've been working legislatively. There actually is a bill in the House and the Senate in the state of Minnesota right now to provide some funding to continue the detailed planning associated with a new storage facility near the airport on the west side of Air Lake Airport to store rail cars with a commitment that the rail cars would get off the track from downtown out to the interstate. So we keep pressing and leaning into that to continue to move that forward. The third is a public safety training facility. This is a very, very exciting project, and it is it's in the mix as far as bonding projects for the state of Minnesota, and it would utilize our old. It would be a renovation of our old central maintenance facility in Air Lake Industrial Park, and would really support our police and fire in terms of their training programs and reduce the amount of time they spend on the road to drive over to Jordan to go do their shooting training or wherever else they have to go for their trainings. And this would be a regional facility. It would support the communities near us, so they would have the same benefits as we do in terms of not having to drive as far and have a facility available for use more routinely. Fourth item is broadband. This is really not so much a legislative matter associated with getting more money, because there's a lot of money in the system right now. What we really need to do is break the money free. And we know that we have some areas in our city, just mentioning one would be the southwest corner on the west side of the interstate, where we have some challenges in terms of broadband access. We continue to work on this. We have opportunities to get some money. We just have to continue to lean in, and that money isn't flowing yet, so we got to get the spigot running so we can advance some things forward. I am aware that there is a new company coming into town, we believe, and they are going to be laying fiber, and hopefully as that contract is negotiated, we can look at some priority areas for them that might be helpful for us in the near term. And lastly, preservation of local control. We really want to ensure that we as a city have the ability to fulfill our plans and not have the state of Minnesota usurp our authority, period. This has been a challenge for us, particularly the last 3 or 4 years with the Minnesota State Legislature. It gets some of the advocates here look at usurping our authority as a way to build more affordable housing. There are a lot of good ways to build more attainable, affordable housing. This is not one of them. And I, as a mayor, as well as other communities, particularly suburban communities, are part of at least one, if not more, collaboratives, consortiums, where we are advocating with the state of Minnesota, including the governor, as far as ensuring that we maintain our local authority, this city council's authority over the governance of our city. And this is a real important matter. You can kind of tell it with by how I'm talking, and I could talk a long time about it. I'll just close by saying that I had the privilege last week to have an opportunity with one of those collaboratives with 8 other mayors to meet with the governor, and we had a good conversation, and he's fully supportive of our local authority, which is good news. However, he's one cog in the 3-part wheel in terms of the Senate and the House being the other 2 parts. And so we need to continue to advocate with our legislators not to usurp our local authority and maintain our local control. So those are some of the key initiatives that we're working on right now. So our city's very strong, isn't it? And as we've just taken these few minutes, half hour, 40 minutes, and stepped back and gotten a glimpse in terms of what's going on in our city, reminded ourselves of the vision of our city, and the types of work we do to ensure that we move forward and can capture that vision down the road. And we've come a long way. I'm grateful to have had the privilege to serve our city as mayor. We have a great city. We have a solid, civil, and respectful city council. And under the stellar leadership of our city administrator, and I don't say that lightly, we have the best city staff in the state. And finally, we have a professional, trusted, and effective public safety team, our police, fire, ambulance service, and chaplains. They work tirelessly, 24/7, to support us and keep us safe, and I'm very grateful. Many of you know that this is my last State of the City address. Deb and I have been considering our future here. Deb is in the front row, by the way, my wife. Have been considering our future, and together we decided that it was time for us to move on to some other commitments in the future. I've loved my years in service in our city. I started 12 years ago on the Finance Committee, was elected to the City Council 10 years ago, and 6 years ago was elected mayor. My 2 terms as mayor have been a huge privilege. Beyond my love for the Lord, my wife, and my family, my next love is serving our city. And to fulfill that service as mayor, has been an added honor. Many of you have asked me what's next for Doug Anderson. I will, of course, continue to serve as mayor through the end of this year, and I'm looking forward to that. Beyond that, Deb and I are praying and discerning as to our future direction. We will certainly travel some. We'll continue to love up our grandson, Alex, and our kids, and Deb's mom, Martha, who lives next door. We will remain active in a marriage ministry that we're involved in, but we know God has plans for us, so stay tuned on where we head. Thanks for your attendance this morning and for tuning in online at a later date. And with that, thanks for being here.